On March 8, 2014, Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 vanished from radar screens and became one of the greatest aviation mysteries of our time. On board were 239 passengers and crew members, including Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, a seasoned pilot with thousands of flight hours. The routine overnight flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing was expected to cover around 2,796 miles in the Lord's units, or in heathen units, 4,500 kilometers. Yet less than an hour into its journey, MH370 inexplicably disappeared from radar, leaving no trace. In the years that followed, the search for MH370 spanned vast stretches of the southern Indian Ocean, yielding intermittent clues, scattered debris, satellite pings, and conflicting theories that range from mechanical failure to deliberate human intervention. Today, we'll talk about the latest discoveries and ideas that might finally shed light on what happened to Malaysia flight MH370, hoping to solve this haunting mystery once and for all. At around 1:01 a.m. Malaysian time, a plane flying 35,000 feet high sent its usual half-hour report using the Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, or ACARS. Everything seemed normal in the report with no signs of trouble. At around 1:07 a.m., ACARS sent its last message saying that all systems were fine. The next update was supposed to come at 1:37 a.m., but it never did. The scariest moment happened at around 1:19 a.m. when the plane was about to enter Vietnamese airspace. The cockpit talked to the air traffic controller at Kuala Lumpur saying, "Good night, Malaysia 370. This was a normal phrase used to signal a handover from one control center to another, but the expected communication from the new center never came. Recently, scientists have made some surprising new discoveries and theories about the missing Flight 370. These findings are changing our understanding of the disaster and giving us more clues about what may have actually happened. With one of the more interesting parts of the MH370 case, this involves mysterious calls and signals. After the plane disappeared from radar, it surprisingly kept in touch with a satellite in the Indian Ocean for 6 hours. This satellite belonged to a company called Inmarsat in London. These signals show that the plane didn't crash suddenly. Instead, it kept flying fast and high for those 6 hours. This was possible because some communication systems on the plane, like passenger devices, cockpit technology, and automatic maintenance reports, were deliberately turned off or disconnected. The messages sent to and from the Inmarsat satellite were like quiet whispers in the vastness of space. Short bursts of electronic signals. In total, there were 7 times the satellite and the plane connected, 2 times the plane reached out on its own, and 5 times the Inmarsat ground station reached out first. In addition, there were 2 attempts to make calls using a satellite phone, but sadly, no one answered on the other end. Still, these calls provided more information about what was happening. Most of these communications were related to 2 values that HEMA, possibly a person or a system, had just started keeping track of. According to the radar information from air traffic control and secret data from the Malaysian Air Force, after MH370 vanished from radar screens, it suddenly turned southwest. Then it veered back over to the Malay Peninsula and circled around the Penang Island. After that, it headed northwest, crossing over the Malacca Strait, and eventually disappeared from radar coverage over the Andaman Sea. This part of the flight lasted more than an hour, suggesting that whatever happened was different from the normal hijacking or any other accidents or situations seen before. The investigation into MH370 led authorities down unexpected paths right from the beginning. This mystery has been under intense investigation for a very long time, with people all over the world wondering about it. Families worldwide were deeply affected by the plane's disappearance, and it seems unlikely that a highly advanced aircraft equipped with modern instruments and backup communications could just vanish. Deleting an email permanently is difficult, and completely disconnecting from the modern world is nearly impossible, even if someone tries to do it on purpose. The Boeing 777 is designed to stay connected electronically at all times, so the plane's disappearance has sparked many theories. Some of these ideas are far-fetched but draw attention because it's rare for a commercial plane to vanish nowadays. Of course, now we know a little bit more about Boeing, so but despite quick denials from Malaysian officials and efforts by the Malaysian Air Force to create confusion, the truth about the plane's unusual flight path began to emerge quickly. In a surprising turn of events, technicians in London used the Doppler shift logs to make a groundbreaking discovery. They pinpointed the exact location of the airplane. It was Inmarsat that achieved this remarkable feat. Specifically at 2:40 a.m., the airplane previously thought to be flying straight unexpectedly turned southward. This crucial moment occurred above the Sumatra, the northernmost island of Indonesia. Although there was some uncertainty in the analysis, experts believe the airplane continued flying towards Antarctica, well beyond its expected range. 6 hours later, Doppler data revealed a sudden and steep descent. The descent was so incredibly fast that it is said to be up to 5 times faster than normal. Within a minute or two after crossing the 7th arc, the plane tragically plunged into the ocean. This rapid descent likely caused parts of the airplane to break off at impact. Electronic evidence suggests that this wasn't a planned water landing, but a catastrophic event. The airplane appeared to have broken into numerous pieces almost instantly. However, at this point, the exact location and cause of the impact remains unknown. The satellite interpretations lacked solid physical evidence to confirm them, leaving the mystery still completely unsolved. Technical analysis of the data strongly suggests that the airplane made a significant turn southward, so this conclusion is heavily supported by the second recorded value from Everest, known as the Doppler value. This measurement is crucial because it tracks how the airplane's frequency changes as it moves relative to the satellite's position. It's a standard method for airplanes to communicate with satellites during their flights, and this is what's kind of ensuring reliable communication. Aircraft systems are designed to anticipate and adjust for these frequency changes, though older satellites may not always transmit signals precisely as expected due to factors like orbit tilt and temperature variations, which can affect signal accuracy. Satellite information revealed something that was kind of extraordinary. The airplane likely continued flying for several hours, even after it stopped communicating. Eventually, Malaysian officials acknowledged the accuracy of this report. Malaysia's government had a reputation for being a little bit secretive and untrustworthy during the investigation into this missing plane, which then kind of continued to fuel suspicions. I mean, if you feel like people aren't telling you the truth, people get kind of angry about this sort of thing. So this is particularly given the corruption allegations surrounding the government in this region. And this situation created turmoil for accident investigators from Europe, Australia, and even the United States. They encountered challenges due to basically information being withheld and initial misguided search efforts in the South China Sea. Unfortunately, this resulted in no floating debris being found, so if Malaysia had been transparent from the beginning, finding debris could have helped narrow down the plane's general location, potentially leading to the recovery of its black boxes. The search for these black boxes eventually led to a remote part of the ocean, but again, the ocean is pretty vast. Even with a good idea of where to look, finding similar black boxes from previous crashes like Air France Flight 447 took 2 years. It still took nearly 2 months of unsuccessful efforts before the search focused on a deeper section of the ocean. The surface search efforts concluded in April of 2014, officially under Malaysian jurisdiction. However, Malaysia's capabilities for deep sea search and recovery were extremely limited. Fortunately, Australia, known for its responsible global role apparently, took charge in the search areas identified by satellite data. The extreme depth and uncharted nature of the region posed kind of a unique challenge for them. The first crucial step was accurately mapping the underwater terrain, which if you know anything about the ocean, it totally sucks. Only then could specialized sonar vehicles safely be towed miles beneath the ocean's surface to begin their work. Another kind of strange detail, I guess, suggests that the incident may not have just been a simple accident, but a carefully planned event. The unconventional flight path combined with the lack of electronic communication defies what you would consider straightforward explanations such as, just a technical failure or a pilot error. Common reasons like computer glitches, control system malfunctions, environmental factors maybe such as ice, lightning, or bird strikes, and even rare events like meteorites or volcanic ash kind of fail to rationalize the intricate route the flight took. Which, to be honest with you, I've been on flights before and I've always wondered, what happens if we get hit by a meteor? It can happen. And I'm like, now I'm kind of like, oh, it really can happen. And that's actually looked at as a very real reality. Okay, that's horrifying. So interestingly, various potential mechanical and human-related issues, like could have been sensors or radio equipment, all the way to the electrical systems and instruments, it just does not fully account for the deliberate deviation from the flight's intended course. Scenarios involving fire, smoke, sudden cabin pressure loss, cargo explosions, or incapacitated pilots also don't really provide a complete explanation for this perplexing event. Moreover, the absence of previous incidents involving confused pilots, medical emergencies, or even external threats such as bombs or acts of war kind of adds to the entire thing being a bit more strange than it should be typically under normal circumstances, which obviously kind of makes it more compelling to learn about. While everybody was trying to figure out where this plane went, an engineer and respected member of an independent group meticulously analyzed radar data related to the airplane itself, and based on his findings, he strongly believed that during a maneuver the aircraft climbed to an altitude of 40,000 feet, near its maximum capability. Such a steep ascent would subject passengers and the pilots themselves to significant G-forces, pressing them into their seats. He proposed a theory suggesting this climb was deliberate, aiming to quickly depressurize the plane, leading to a swift incapacitation and tragic loss of everyone on board. According to his hypothesis, this intentional depressurization might have been a method to manage any potential unruly behavior during the extended flight. The effects of depressurization in the cabin would have been unnoticed initially, except for the sudden appearance of maybe the oxygen masks dropping down from the ceiling, which are meant for emergency use. However, these masks provide effective oxygen supply for only up to 15 minutes at altitudes below 13,000 feet. At the high cruising altitude of 40,000 feet, occupants in the cabin would rapidly lose consciousness without experiencing suffocation or even struggling for air. The deceased passengers would have remained seated, their faces covered up by now ineffective oxygen masks under dim emergency lighting. In contrast, the cockpit is equipped with 4 pressurized oxygen masks capable of supplying oxygen for several hours. If someone intentionally depressurized the cabin, they could have used one of these masks to continue breathing safely. As the plane then ascended rapidly, it appeared on the radar screens as a mysterious blip speeding towards the Penang Island and also at nearly 600 miles per hour. Nearby, Butterworth Air Force Base housed Malaysian F-18 fighter jets and an air defense radar system. Surprisingly, it seemed that these resources were not actively engaged in the unfolding situation. As Mike continued his investigation, he couldn't shake his bewilderment over the lack of attention from the air defense radar and fighter jets. The seriousness of his discoveries and their potential implications for aviation safety weighed heavily on his mind. And contrary to popular belief, control of the plane really wasn't taken remotely. That's just one of those things that's suggested all the time, and it's like, no. Instead, it remained under the control from within the cockpit, located just below the front galley where electrical equipment is stored. This critical period occurred between 1:01 a.m. when the plane reached 35,000 feet altitude and 1:21 a.m. when it vanished from secondary radar. During these 20 minutes, the plane's automatic reporting system continued to send its scheduled update every 30 minutes via satellite to the airline's maintenance department. These updates included details on fuel levels, altitude, speed, position, and any irregularities, indicating that the satellite communication system was operational at that time. Given the unlikelihood of both pilots cooperating in such actions, it's plausible that by the time the plane disappeared from the secondary radar, one of the pilots may have been incapacitated, deceased, or locked out of the cockpit. Military and civilian aircraft were detected on primary radar. Further investigation suggested that the pilots of MH370 likely disengaged the autopilot as the precise southwest turn was too deliberate to be executed by automated systems alone. Additionally, it appears the person in control deliberately depressurized the cabin and potentially disabled a significant portion, if not all, of the electrical systems around the same time. The motive behind these actions remains completely unclear, but they inadvertently disrupted the satellite link temporarily. In the perplexing case, as it gets more and more strange of this disappearance, another theory also centers around the potential involvement of the captain themselves. Could it be plausible that he assumed control without resorting to force? While unsettling, this idea isn't unprecedented, as similar instances have already sadly occurred in the past. For example, in 1997, the captain of Silk Air, a Singaporean airline, allegedly disabled crucial recorders on a Boeing 737 before intentionally crashing it into a river at high speed. Similarly, in 1999, the co-pilot of Egypt Air Flight 990 deliberately crashed the plane into the sea near Long Island, resulting in the loss of all the lives on board. And additionally, just 1 month before the MH370 incident, the captain of Mozambique Airlines Flight 470 tragically crashed his plane from a high altitude, leading to the loss of everyone on board as well. Another chilling example might also be the Germanwings Airbus, which intentionally crashed into the French Alps on March 24th, 2015, resulting in the deaths of all passengers and crews. And this is why I absolutely hate flying. I drive everywhere. I drive from Alabama to Seattle for PAX West. My girlfriend and I are going to Alaska, in October. I'm driving. Don't get me wrong, driving is, more dangerous than it is to fly, but dude, it's like if a pilot has a bad day, you're screwed. I don't like it. So anyways, when we go back to the Alps, in this instance, the co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz, locked the pilot out of the cockpit while he took over control. Investigations later revealed Lubitz had been struggling with depression and had previously researched the disappearance of MH370 a year earlier. See? I don't trust pilot. My brother's a pilot. I think I'd probably get on his plane, but I'd be like, hey man, everything going good? Like, just check on them first. I'm not laughing at these people. I'm laughing at my own fear of flying. Anyways, so considering the co-pilot's profile in the MH370 incident presents challenges to accepting such a scenario, I mean, it's difficult. He was described as a young, optimistic individual, eagerly looking forward to his upcoming marriage. There are no records indicating personal conflicts or signs of depression. Furthermore, he wasn't employed by a struggling low-cost airline with minimal pay and prestige, unlike Lubitz. On the contrary, he was flying the prestigious Boeing 777, pretty sure that's how you say it, for a respected national airline in a country where such pilots are highly regarded. Amid rising concerns, Captain Zahari had been portrayed in official accounts as a skilled pilot and a stable family man who enjoyed spending time in flight simulators, so he knew what he was doing. However, while his family presents this image, troubling signs of distress seem to have been overlooked. Law enforcement uncovered aspects of Zahari's life that warranted closer scrutiny, but subsequent investigations yielded insufficient findings. Evaluations of Zahari's ability to handle work-related stress were pretty positive, and there was really no prior indication of indifference or anxiety or even tension. His usual interactions with others and family and anything concerning challenges with those showed really no significant changes. There were no behavioral cues suggesting withdrawal from social interactions, altercations in routines, or shifts in any of his interests, meaning he was pretty much baseline the whole time. Recordings from the airport CCTV on the day of the flight and the 3 preceding flights portrayed Zahari as composed, well-dressed, and groomed. His usual mannerisms, including his posture, facial expressions, gestures, everything that basically made him just a normal dude, appeared unchanged. Despite this official portrayal, there does seem to be a disconnect or a conflict with what is known about Zahari. Despite troubling hints that were overlooked, his personal life appears to have been marked by loneliness and isolation. His wife's departure from him made him feel alone, obviously, so he would be spending long hours by himself between flights. He also appears to have harbored feelings for a married woman with a family, and his fixation extended to 2 young models he encountered online. His attempts to connect with them were unanswered, and some of his comments ventured into inappropriate territory. And if there's anything I could tell you, if you're thinking about talking to a model online, do yourself a favor and just don't. Like, what is the go talk to, I don't know, a real woman out there or something. Somebody that's like, you can actually talk to them and hang out with them and have like fun with. I don't know, maybe just call me crazy, but models. Anyway, so Captain Zahari's life underwent a significant transformation, distancing him from his once steady and secure existence. His increased involvement with social media may have also worsened his isolation. That's something for you to listen to, dear listener. Stay off social media. It sucks. It's a madhouse. But this led experts to consider a diagnosis of potentially clinical depression. An important discovery from examining his flight simulator revealed a flight path resembling that of MH370 identified by the FBI. Strangely, Malaysian investigators downplayed the significance of this evidence despite its potential implications. These intricate details kind of paint a broader picture of Captain Zahari's circumstances, suggesting a complex struggle beyond the public facade. And also, let's be real here, Malaysia does not want to take credit for this in any capacity, so it kind of makes sense that they would kind of cover this up. In another eyebrow-raising angle to this mystery concerning MH370, a theory challenges the belief that the plane even crashed in the first place and sank in the Indian Ocean. Some argue that the plane might not have sunk at all. This theory is supported by reports from several passengers' relatives who claim to have heard ringing tones from their loved ones' phones for up to 4 days after this supposed crash. Astonishingly, 19 families have shared similar experiences, shedding light on the puzzling phenomenon. One poignant example that garnered attention involved a family member demonstrating on Chinese television that he could still call his deceased brother's phone and it would ring. This emotional demonstration added weight to the theory on ongoing phone functionality. Telecommunications expert Paul Franks has supported this theory, asserting that if the plane had crashed into the ocean, the phones likely would not have continued to function and ring for such an extended period of time. Paul Franks explained on Reddit that if a phone goes underwater, specifically seawater, it is very unlikely to still work properly afterwards. Even if it somehow stays intact, it won't pick up signals from deep underwater, which raises doubts about the reports that ringing tones heard by the families could be from the missing plane. If Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 didn't crash into the sea, where could it be? And what could explain the ongoing mystery of the phones ringing? And why were they not able to track those things? This evidence strongly suggests that we maybe should reconsider what even happened in the first place to this plane. One man, Victor Ianello, a creative entrepreneur from Roanoke, Virginia, and no, I'm not from Roanoke, Virginia, is well known for his work in a group that's kind of independently investigating the flight and not talking to Malaysia, because they are not going to tell you the truth. Allegedly not going to tell you the truth. I guess I shouldn't just flat out say they're not going to tell you the truth. Who knows? Maybe they would. But anyways, he's focused on simulating flights and has noticed something rather unusual about Captain Zahari, the pilot. Instead of simulating the entire flight in one go, Zahari did it in stages, adjusting fuel and making jumps until the plane mysteriously vanished from the simulation. This strange behavior has led Ianello to believe that Zahari played a key role in what happened to the plane. Victor finds it suspicious that Captain Zahari used a simulator not required for his job, which resembles a Microsoft game. This led Victor to suggest a unique theory. Possibly, Zahari might have used the simulated flight as like a symbolic way to say goodbye, leaving clues behind like breadcrumbs. Though Zahari's exact reasons remain unclear, Victor warns against dismissing this as maybe mere chance. From Victor's perspective, this unconventional simulator use is kind of a crucial thing in understanding the mysterious disappearance of the plane in the first place. It offers insight into Zahari's mindset and his role in the events leading up to this incident. Historian Norman Davis proposes that he has somewhat of a related idea. MH370 might have been hacked remotely and redirected to a secret location. Davis suggests that cyber experts could have used technology designed to prevent another 9/11 style attack, allowing planes to be controlled from the ground. In his book, Beneath Another Sky, A Global Journey into History, Davis talks about a special technology called the Boeing Honeywell Uninterruptible Autopilot. This technology could also be a game changer, suggesting a troubling scenario. David suggests the plane might have been carrying important materials or people bound for Beijing, making it a target not once but twice for kidnapping attempts. Since there are still no clear answers, Davis thinks it's okay to guess about what may have happened. He believes the plane might have been taken over remotely by a hacker who wanted to redirect it to the US naval base in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. Then another hacker or controller might have seized control to stop it from getting there. In September of 2019, during the search for the missing plane, an intriguing theory also emerged then. It just keeps emerging. Ian Wilson, a British video maker, thought the plane might have crashed deep in the jungle, making it hard to find from space. He focused on rainforests in the Southeast Asia portion of the continent and then found what looked like a plane in the Cambodian jungle, about 60 miles west of Phnom Penh. The images showed the plane wedged against a mountain at an angle. Some pieces of MH370 were found in the Indian Ocean, but only a few were confirmed to be from the missing plane. This has continued to raise doubts about the idea of it actually crashing in the ocean. Undeterred, Ian and his brother Jackie decide to explore their find, but their journey was tough and their guides had to turn back because the terrain was too dangerous. Still, the brothers believed in their discovery. Aviation expert Lieutenant Tim McMillan said the object looked like a plane, but seemed too small to be a Boeing 777. The model, which was again MH370. Eventually, experts confirmed it wasn't from the plane they were looking for, but from a completely different plane. Does anybody know what happened to that plane? So even with this setback, Ian and Jackie are confident in their find and hope to try again when they have enough money for another exploration. Amidst the investigation into the disappearances of the flight, one other idea that emerged was the presence of a hidden passenger and mysterious cargo. This mysterious concept kind of gained attention as investigators looked into how the flight vanished without a trace. Their scrutiny uncovered kind of a strange detail in like the flight's records, which you think the people who are officially on board to do this would have found this, but an unexplained cargo weighing about 196 pounds disclosed by French investigators in a detailed report that covered passengers and their belongings. This revelation added another layer to the mystery, leaving many questions unanswered. Additionally, Mr. Waterloo, who supports the theory of deliberate interference, referenced a report from the French newspaper La Parisienne, God, mentioning an overloaded container on the flight. Despite these findings, the reasons behind these unusual occurrences remain unclear. It was later revealed that an unidentified 89-kilogram load was added to the flight's manifest after takeoff, which is around 196 pounds, exceeding permissible limits without explanation. Whether these actions were due to an error or intentional manipulation remains a mystery, contributing to the uncertainty surrounding this entire investigation. Aviation security expert Tim Termini has suggested the possibility of hijacking supported by significant evidence. He outlined 4 potential scenarios: involvement by a crew member, a passenger, an unusual stowaway, or even a remote control of the aircraft's electrical systems. However, Philip Abom, another prominent figure in aviation security, cautioned against jumping to conclusions, particularly regarding the idea of a stowaway, which officials have been hesitant to even consider in the first place. Also, we'll keep going down the list of theories. One other theory suggests that the flight may have been accidentally shot down during a joint training exercise between Thailand and the US in the South China Sea, which coincided with the plane's disappearance. This theory speculates that miscommunication, technical problems, or just human error could have led to the tragic incident. And if you just saw my video on World War II pilots, you know pilots will sometimes have tragic accidents and incidences, and they don't really think with their heads. So, former French airline director Marc Tegan claimed he saw satellite images showing unidentified aircraft in the area around the time that MH370 vanished. He also mentioned receiving threats to drop this theory, hinting at a possible case of mistaken identity. Another scenario proposes that MH370 was mistakenly targeted by a country's military, possibly believing it was hostile or a suspicious aircraft. This confusion might have been triggered by the plane deviating from its planned route, losing communication, or resembling another aircraft that this other country would have been concerned about. Nigel Cawthorne, a British author, went on to suggest that the US and TIE fighters could have actually taken down the MH370, fearing it was heading towards their military base in Diego Garcia Island in the Indian Ocean. Cawthorne also wondered if sensitive cargo or personnel on board drew unwanted attention or hostility. Some conspiracy theories also still go as far as suggesting that MH370's disappearance was part of a deliberate cover-up orchestrated by a state actor, motivated by political or even strategic reasons. These elaborate theories add layers of complexity to this whole mystery. The intricate theory suggests a plan involving creating a distraction, shifting blame to another country, or even secretly seizing valuable items from MH370. According to G. Selina Waterloo, a relative of a passenger, there's a claim that the US Air Force shot down MH370 to seize electronic equipment meant for China. Allegedly, a global cover-up ensued to hide this action. However, these assertions face substantial challenges and doubts. What could have possibly been on that thing that we couldn't just replicate? Who knows? So critics also argue that there's no solid evidence or clear motive supporting the idea of a shootdown. There's no conclusive proof of any missiles or fighters near MH370, nor any indication that a state actor had intentions to shoot it down. The satellite images supposedly showing unidentified aircraft and the anonymous threats have not been verified by official sources. Moreover, orchestrating the shooting down of a civilian aircraft and covering up would require extensive coordination, authorization, and would carry severe legal repercussions. Maintaining such a large-scale conspiracy for especially this long without any leaks or whistleblowers coming forward seems highly improbable. As a result, the credibility of these theories remains uncertain and will continue to be debated. But now we get to the part where I just kind of ad-lib, right? So here's the problem that I see. We know for a while now we know, as of 2024, literally 10 years later, Boeing is not on a hot streak. Lots of their planes have been having issues. Lots of, what is it? We just had astronauts in space they were supposed to be there for 8 days. I believe they were there for 251 because of something that Boeing did. If I'm remembering that correctly, which I'm fairly certain I am. So overall, Boeing is not exactly batting 1,000 out here. So is it possible that they started cutting corners with their planes and this created an issue, just a depressurization event? It seems like maybe that could possibly be the case. The question would be, why would a pilot engage autopilot, or even the autopilot that was there? It seemed to not really operate in a way that autopilot should be capable of. It looked more human. So is it possible they climbed to 40,000 feet? There was a depressurization event. Maybe the pilots didn't actually react in time. Maybe the pilots are already gone, and then somebody else tried to take over, but they really didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know how to call out to anybody. It was too complex, and they're like, oh crap. So they tried to fly it in a way that they thought they were supposed to go. But the problem is that if you're not trained to actually fly a plane, then everything's gonna be confusing, you're gonna lose your bearings, and eventually you're gonna run out of gas, which this thing clearly did. So where did it end up? I think I saw something the other day that kind of mentions the possibility that they may have found it under the water, like more information has come out since then. But it's interesting because it just seems to have vanished. And even now, we really haven't seen it. Most planes that vanish, they are eventually found. I mean, Air France took 2 years, but it's been a decade and we still aren't 100% sure. So personally, you know, what does my opinion mean? Absolutely nothing, but was it a hijacking? Could have been a hijacking that went wrong. Sure, maybe somebody who actually knew how to fly the plane got injured in the process and couldn't do it, and then they bled out. It's just really hard to say. But the way that the plane was acting, the way where it ended up, you know, all of those things, and I will say this, maybe to a degree, if you have, let's say you're taking over a plane, right? So you're running through the passengers, you're taking cell phones, you're putting them in a bag. Okay, so then one of the guys gets injured and now it's just you who doesn't know how to fly a plane. You already took out both the pilots so that they couldn't like stage a coup and then fly it back anywhere or even call out for help. So it's just you, the guy who has the phones possibly in a plastic bag, and then you go down, right? And the plane doesn't immediately sink. Maybe the actual phones end up somewhere where, you know, there's enough air in the bag and they float to the surface, and so they can still receive signals for a little while. But at the end of the day, it's just everybody's already gone. It's just the phones left. There's just a lot of possible ways that the phones could still ring. They didn't get wet, and they were just able to get, like, when the phone, like the actual plane broke apart, the phones were able to float to the surface because they were already in a bag that may have been watertight because they took everybody's phones. It's hard to say, but so far, as far as I know, we haven't found any more information on it. Like I said, I remember something vaguely about maybe they found the plane, but I feel like it would be a bigger deal than just kind of falling to the wayside almost immediately. Well, anyhow, I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think it crashed in the ocean? Do you think those people possibly still survived? But we're a decade out and they still haven't come home, so I don't think that's really the case anymore. Somebody would have probably escaped. Something would have happened. I think, personally, it just crashed in the ocean. It may have been a hijacking. It may have been a depressurization event and the pilots just didn't react quick enough. Who's to say? But I do want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed learning about this, then please leave a like as it helps get the video out there. And subscribing is a great way to stay up to know when I post. We are approaching 250,000 subs. Thank you very much. I will be fighting the Michigan Dogman in 2027 in June specifically, if we get to 1 million by then. So go ahead and subscribe. I also want to thank my patrons real quick. At the Literal Wendigo tier, we have Grayson West, Michigan Dogman, Monkey Man, Not a Pickle, and Stupid Fox. Thank you guys for your awesome support. At the Eyewitness to the Event tier, we have Beaver Malaga and Dragon Master Knight. At the First-Hand Accounts tier, we have Pimp Daddy Shamrocks and Yeep. And at the Second-Hand Accounts tier, we have Bianca, Fred Rush, Stutz, and Troy. And the rest of my patrons, I do appreciate y'all's support. It goes a long way towards helping out, so it's absolutely awesome. Thank you. All right, that's going to do it for me. I hope everyone enjoyed, and I will see y'all in the next one.